who's prompting this and who's fostering it or chartering it? I know we have the ability to abolish our own government here in Kentucky. I think it's Section 3 of the Kentucky Constitution. But who's pushing this? You keep saying we.
Okay, and that's what we tried to explain in the beginning, was that where we started from was this idea of unified government came out of the visioning project that was really part of the BRAC and Knox 1, okay? The Department of Defense, through the Office of Economic Adjustment, as BRAC positively or negatively affects communities, they provide resources for you to figure out how to adjust to that. And so that was part of the survey that occurred in that visioning project. And it was indicated that when asked about local government, I mean, I took that survey, it took me over an hour, Luke, to fill that thing out. But about 90% of the people said, you know, we need to be thinking about some type of consolidation or unification of government in Hardin County. And so that's where this sprang from, okay? So there was a group of folks that said, yeah, I'll volunteer and we'll work on this issue. And that's 14, 15 months ago, that's where we started and brings us here today. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Yvonne Lauterbach, and I have a couple of questions. Thank you. First, out of curiosity, I seen West Point up there on one of your slides, but West Point is in Meade County, right?
No,
it's Hardin County.
It's
West
Hardin
Point
County?
is
Okay.
part of Hardin County.
Okay.
Mayor Ash will tell you
Not-
that. I don't know if Mayor Ash is here tonight, but he's often here with us.
I have, I was wondering if a larger community, you know, I mean a larger government, you know, community would have any mandates, you know, coming down like from the federal government or state government, you know, because we are a larger entity. If there are some federal mandates, they are suddenly applying to us, which are not applying to us when we are smaller. Another question is...
Well, let me ask, let's try to respond to that one. I'm afraid I won't remember it if I get back to it. I think you're asking is if we unify, will there be more federal mandates than, I mean, obviously we already have federal mandates.
Correct.
Will they be more if we become a larger community? Okay. I mean, my suspicion is yes, okay? I mean, just intuitively you would think that. That is one of the issues that a review commission would have to research, okay? That's one of those details that they would come up with to see how that impacts us. Now, I will tell you that many people in the smaller cities currently, I mean, we struggle. The mandates, a lot of them aren't dependent upon the size, okay, of your community. You have to do them. And that's one of the struggles that occur in local governments, not just here in Hardin County, but everywhere, is complying with all of those. You know, if you're a community of 1 million people, well, you've got the resources to comply easier than if you're a community of 8,000. But a lot of those mandates, doesn't make any difference what size you are. You had another question?
Yes, in regard to taxes, would that mean that taxes would be leveled across the board? You know, I mean that, you know, like E-Town has like that extra restaurant tax, I guess 2%, which it's for the convention center, and then would that also mean that then the citizens of the, you know, of like Radcliffe, you know, would be then also responsible then for the bonds,
Okay.
you know, which were issued, you know, for the convention center?
Yeah, good question. What happens to the tax structure? Okay. Again, the review commission would make those ultimate decisions that would be given to the voters to decide. But generally, this is what happens. You have these urban service districts, okay, that typically are in the same areas that the cities are currently in. You have the same services, okay, for those areas, and you have the same tax structure for those areas. If you issues such as special taxing districts, okay, issues such as wet-dry issues, those are basically precinct specific. They remain in those same areas after unified government than they were prior to unified government, okay? Anyone else? Yes, over here.
Hi, Judge Howard. I'm Mark Sloan. I've got a question, I guess, is asking for more information about, you went over a lot of good, positive attributes, and there's obviously, those outweigh the negatives based on the recommendation of Hardin County United. What did you all learn and the consulting partners learn from the case studies from Georgia and other places about what did they have to overcome? What were the challenges? Can you talk more about the challenges that you all foresee?
Luke, you want to take that?
Sure. It's a great question. And each community is different. There were no single set of circumstances that covered all 5 of the cities that we looked at. Augusta, Richmond County, Georgia that we looked at merged about 15, 20 years ago. And the driver there was that, frankly, the city of Augusta was in financial distress. A lot of the community had moved outside of Augusta into the surrounding county. The tax base had gone down. In fact, the population decline was so severe in Augusta that they actually lost their metropolitan statistical area designation. And so that was a situation where a crisis was in place, and the only solution that the local folks had in mind was to put Richmond County and Augusta together into one unified government. They did that. Everybody that I met with down there, and typically when I did these case studies, I would go into each of the communities. I would meet with the city manager. I would meet with somebody from the newspaper, the chamber president. If there was a military base nearby, I would meet with somebody from the military base to kind of get different views on the whole thing. And in Augusta, they said they wrote the charter too quickly. There are underlying issues in the community that still are not working together very, very well. However, they were able to right the ship. They got it off of the reef, and the community is moving forward, and they're in much better shape than they were before. Athens and Clark County, which is a really neat community. Usually what happens is that when these communities merge, they are able to work together much, much more effectively. They're able to generate prioritize requests for grants and appropriations from state government, from the federal government. To be honest, there really weren't many negatives at all. The positives outweighed the negatives in just about every case.
Yes. Another question over here?
Yes, thank you for your time. Anford Miller from Radcliffe.
Okay.
I'm concerned that the smaller you make government and the more people you pack in, that dilutes our vote. You keep saying we speak as one voice, but that tends to dilute our voice, like, making more money. It makes our dollar worth less. Also, you keep talking about grants from state and federal government, which I know that's a big thing, but if you've not looked at the numbers lately, our state and our federal government is broke and almost in bankruptcy. I would prefer that we find a way not to get grants from state and federal government, and maybe find a way not to send them so much money. and keep it here. And everything you say sounds pretty good, putting all these things together, but and the only thing I can think of just off the top of my head, like in Radcliffe, we have an independent garbage pickup, and if we don't like them guys, we can fire them.
Okay.
And we take bids every so often, and that keeps our price down. I like that.
And that could continue.
Mm-hmm.
It would be up to the
Well,
review
and that's what I was
commission to
gonna say. I'm
address each of those.
Yeah, I wouldn't be totally against some of the things merging together, and it wouldn't be against, maybe, but, and I'm not sure how to say this, but it seems like everywhere I turn, every day, several times a day, I'm being taxed somewhere. And if we're going to do this and throw this thing together, let's try to make a level tax field to where, I'm not every day just money out of my pocket to taxes and to government everywhere I go.
Well, I thought it was interesting because in Luke's study, I forget which community it was that he looked at, but one of the real satisfiers for the citizens of that community is that they just receive one tax bill. okay?
Well,
A lot of folks, I guess, like that. Now, I understand what you're saying. And even though currently, relatively speaking, Hardin County has a low person tax rate, tax burden, okay? Now, what's low? That's in the eyes of the beholder. It could be too much, some people could have an opinion it's too much. But when you compare us to other communities in Kentucky and other communities in the Southeast, we have a relatively low tax rate. So how do we maintain that low tax burden on our people? And again, I go back to Mr. Pettit from Lexington. His studies indicated that if you're going to grow, and Hardin County is going to grow, whether, that is going to happen. Those dynamics are already in place. We will continue to grow. How do you provide those services to those new, the next 15, 20,000 people that come in the next decade? Well, what his study indicated that if you have a unified form of government, that you can provide those services at a less tax burden per person as the new people come in. Now that's what his study showed in looking at this. I think seems like it was 30, some 30 unified communities across the United States. So that's one way. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, vote for unified government and it's going to lower your tax rate immediately. I cannot tell you that. That has not been the experience of other communities. What they have found is that it keeps that tax burden lower, okay, going forward as your community grows. Okay, but thank you for your comments.
You're able to spread your cost in many cases over more people, more citizens, which tends to make it more efficient.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name's Leslie Mann. I live in Rhineyville.
Okay.
I actually work in Louisville, and I work with a lot of people, and this is more of a comment/request type thing.
Sure.
I talk to a lot of people every day that live there, and they're not happy with the government as it is today with the metro. They feel like the taxes went up, or they don't get the benefit that they said they were going to receive from it. And frankly, I drive there every day and have considered moving closer, but wouldn't dare move into Jefferson County because of the things that I've heard. And I love the feel of the small community, yet E-Town's plenty big enough for me to run into Sam's or Kroger or Lowe's or what have you.
Right.
So I prefer to stay here. And I know when I start a project at work, when somebody has a great idea, one of the first things we do is we make a list of pros and cons. And I know you really want to beef up the pros part of it if you want to do it, but I think it helps us to weigh it out as citizens. What do we get from it? What could we lose from it? Because there are pros and cons to everything.
Right.
And I think it all comes down to a balance between the two. So seeing a list of pros and cons, I think would be huge. And secondly...
Well, let me address that first.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Okay, because, it's only a good idea if the people approve it based on an educated vote. We need that detailed list of pros and cons. I can't sit here and give you, I can talk conceptually here all day about these things. To get to that detailed list, we need the Unification Review Commission to be appointed. They would be the group that then would have the responsibility to give us those details. Exactly how is this going to work? And then you could identify the pros and cons from that and then make a decision as to whether or not you wanted to vote to approve it or not.
Okay.
Okay?